One of my favorite isms is don't be new, be you. You know, there's this notion in the world at New Year's Eve or something like that to turn over a new leaf. The Jewish concept around that is coming home to who you are. Just come back to who you are. That's what the word teshuvah means. It's repentance, translated as repentance, but the literal meaning of it is return. Return to who you are. And to me, what that means is if I want to get in touch with myself, I don't have to go out and find anything. Anything I want or need is really here inside. I actually have a program where I teach coaching according to Jewish and mystical principles, and one of the things I teach is that you can think about relationships as existing on an x-axis and a y-axis, and you're at the intersection of those axes. And the x-axis is all the interpersonal relationships, but the y-axis is intrapsychic, and it's me to God and then me to my own self. I mean, there's certainly a notion of inner parenting where intellect looks after emotions, or my conscious self is just aware of the fact that there's the soul and spirit inside of me. And that's always within my reach, always. I exist inside of God. So Judaism doesn't hold by deism at all. Deism is the notion that there is a God, a creator, but who is so removed, God has nothing to do with the world. And then you've got to go get a whole lot of other intermediaries, whether it's a person or and don't laugh at that, because people have people today as their intermediaries, whether it's someone who's famous, an actor or actress, or a politician or a sports person, etc. We put that, it doesn't just have to be a human God, right? But it would include also deities that people have worshipped throughout the generations. That becomes necessary when you believe that God has left the world. But from a Jewish perspective, we exist inside of our Creator. God, as the Rambam says, by knowing himself knows the world. So I always have access to God, and I have access to my own soul. And what I would recommend in order to do that is a couple of things. It's like, how do I remember what's there and what's inside? Try and quieten the static. There's so much that's happening. I think about how I grew up in South Africa. There was no television. We just had each other. And I very much recommend times of quiet, cutting down on screen time. Screen addiction is really taking people away from themselves. Try and be with yourself in silence. Do you know that the sages, with great difficulty, allowed us to speak on the Sabbath, on Shabbat? Shabbat was meant to be a time of silence, and then when you escorted it after the stars came out and you say goodbye to Shabbat, then there's the Malava Malka, the traditional Saturday night meal, and that was supposed to be a time of speaking about the insights and revelations that happen. So I'm not saying something as extreme as that has to happen. I have done speech fasts that included screen fasts and no texting or writing. It's really useful to take some time and just be in yourself, because talking helps with thinking. When you speak with people, you work things out. But there's a different kind of processing that happens in silence. Siag l'chochma shesika says in Ethics of Our Fathers, the fence to wisdom is silence. Not to understanding. If you want to understand, actually you have to talk, but to wisdom, be quiet. So I think that this kind of quiet coming inside is very useful. And then, of course, there's the way Jews have always done it, which is through God's mitzvahs and studying the Torah. It's quite remarkable that they are the quantum leap. You do something and you connect with your Creator. You can travel 1 mile or 1,000,000 miles towards infinity, but you don't get any closer because it's infinitely distant. So there has to be this quantum leap, and the quantum leap are the mitzvot, the commandments that God has given us to fulfill. He chose to be in a relationship with us and said, well, you can do this and that will bind you to me. And there are mitzvahs that involve action and those that involve prayer. Prayer is heart-centered, and the commandments are action-based, and then there's study. The study of Torah is actually also speech-based, so it's connected to the heart. But when you do that a lot, you understand, and then there's a shift in consciousness. Understanding the Torah binds your consciousness to God. Learning the Torah and praying connect your heart to God. And then the actions connect your body to God. And when you do that, you connect to your own self. Because I don't think that there is a difference between connecting to God and connecting to our own self. Our soul is a part of the Creator. And I'll qualify and say, being a part doesn't make it the whole, right? As I say, just tell us, He is the place of the world, but the world is not His place. The whole world is in Him, but He isn't it. Like the fact that you have a part or a spark of God in you doesn't make you God. Unfortunately, there's way too many people that think that it does. It doesn't. But we do have that spark in us, and by touching the spark, I touch Him. And then I come home. By coming home to me, I come home to Him. By coming home to God, I come home to myself.
Moment of Wisdom. Sub-brief and life-changing moments. Join us. Subscribe to Moment of Wisdom channels on YouTube, Telegram, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp.